Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your complex stack of sources, articles, research, investigative reports, and personal notes, and distill them into the essential knowledge you need to be thoroughly informed.
Today, we are setting the scene in Manila. It's a city where, the high stakes of international commerce and local politics are about to collide with a kind of primal, chaotic fury.
That's absolutely right. Our listener challenged us with a scenario that, well, it reads like a sprawling geopolitical thriller.
It really does. This deep dive is about the sudden, violent intersection of private tragedy, high-level political manipulation, and then these elements that cross the threshold into the genuinely uncanny.
And the focal point for all of this is the disappearance and subsequent rescue, but ultimate death of an American businessman, Howard Bridgewater.
Exactly. And to understand what happened to him, we need to look at multiple source streams.
Okay, let's unpack this magnificent tangle. So we have source material that pulls us in, what, three primary directions?
I'd say so. First, there's the immediate crisis itself, the amateurish brutality of the kidnapping.
Then you have the pressure cooker environment of the U.S. Foreign Service community. They're trying to manage a huge international incident.
And finally, the operations of an elite local task force Kapow, whose methods are, well, they're perhaps darker than those of the criminals they're supposed to be hunting.
So the central tension running through all this material is how these big global concerns, the U.S. Embassy, American money, all that bureaucracy,
Right.
they're just instantly swallowed up by these deeply localized forces. We're talking Filipino corruption, local myths, vengeance.
We are tracing the compounding nature of these forces, how one thing just dominoes into the next.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the
Okay.
narrative hook for this entire crisis, it's just incredible. We have a kidnapping plot that was literally hatched over a blind fighting rooster,
A rooster named Keylog.
Keylog. And from there, it escalates to involve a celebrity actor named Charlie Fuentes, who's running for the Senate based purely on his action film persona.
Then there's a U.S. diplomat having this terrifying but also kind of exhilarating affair with his campaign manager.
And a special forces soldier who is described by his handlers as a bruja, a cursed man who can see the truth from miles away and whose vengeance is long overdue.
It is an utterly volatile situation. Our mission is to make sense of this tangled web for you.
So we should probably begin with the man at the center of the storm, Howard Bridgewater.
Right. The target.
He was nearing a pretty critical transition point in his life. The sources mentioned he was struggling with persistent insomnia.
And on top of that, he was facing this mandatory 5 weeks of leave that he was required to take back in D.C.
A mundane problem, right, forced vacation. But it was about to pivot into something truly dreadful.
The sources set a really atmospheric stage right before the capture.
Yeah.
It's night, Howard is outside, he can't sleep, he's wrestling with his restlessness.
And then he sees something.
He witnesses a moment of profound, almost scientific beauty. He sees moondogs.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's a specific optical phenomenon. It's a hazy, unbroken halo of light around the moon with these faint flares. It's caused by ice crystals way up in the upper atmosphere refracting the moonlight.
So it's this moment of natural wonder, a brief, silent spectacle.
Exactly. A moment of pure clarity.
And that silent wonder is just immediately shattered by human chaos.
Completely. Before Howard can even fully process the beauty of these moondogs, a PVC pipe smashes through his taxi window and his world just collapses into violence and darkness.
It's such a tragic contrast. You have the impersonal, perfect physics of ice crystals creating a halo versus the ugly, personalized brutality of kidnapping.
And the perpetrators, they were anything but organized. They were driven by pure desperation.
So let's talk about them. We have Ignacio.
Ignacio, the central figure, he's a taxi driver, but he also operates a makeshift meth, or as it's called there, shabu manufacturing lab in his bathroom.
And the sources say his heavy use of shabu had left him paranoid, sleepless, erratic.
Which is absolutely crucial to understanding why the crime escalates so quickly. He's not thinking clearly.
And his accomplice, little boy, how is he described?
The sources paint a picture of someone clumsy. He's large, physically awkward, and is described as constantly looking like he's trying to pass something so big it hurts a little.
So these are not hardened criminals.
Not at all. They're amateurs, desperate operators fueled by a very specific kind of personal ruin.
And that ruin, their financial motive, it's so small scale. It's rooted in this very local, very specific tragedy.
It is. Ignacio's primary debt, the thing that was the catalyst for this entire plan, it stemmed from the loss of his valuable fighting rooster, Kilog.
The rooster went blind.
The rooster went blind, and in the world of Filipino cockfighting, a champion bird going blind is a significant financial setback. It's a huge source of shame.
So this kidnapping, it was initially conceived as just a quick way to cover that debt.
Exactly. It was improvised, panicked, and driven by the downfall of a blind gamecock.
Right. And what's fascinating is how quickly they pivot from a simple ransom to something far, far more dangerous.
They almost immediately decide a simple ransom isn't enough, or maybe it's just too complicated for them to handle, so they transition to selling Howard.
Selling him to the Abu Sayyaf group.
Yes. They make this calculation that a terrorist hostage holds infinitely more value than just some ordinary wealthy victim.
That is a monumental leap. From a petty debt over a rooster to funding global terrorism.
All thanks to a desperate idea fueled by Shabu paranoia. And their amateur nature is immediately apparent in how they try to prove they have him. The proof of life.
The classic cinematic trope, right? A photo of Howard with a newspaper taped to his chest.
Exactly. They send it to prospective buyers, and they're specifically targeting a figure known as the Holy Man, a former rebel handler with deep connections to the Abu Sayyaf.
So they're performing the role of terrorists.
They're playing dress-up. They don't have the competence or the chilling calculation of true extremists.
And while all this is happening, while Howard is being held, his estranged son, Benicio, arrives in Manila.
Benny, yeah, he's completely unaware of the catastrophe that's unfolding.
He's there to reconcile with his father.
Right, following the recent death of Benicio's mother, Ursula. She was struck by a car. This trip was meant to be this painful attempt at closure.
The sources say it was maybe the first true reconnection since Benicio had told his father, "I haven't forgiven you yet, but I will."
So Benicio's arrival is just laden with this incredibly complicated grief. He's consumed by the loss of his mother, and he's also in this intensely volatile relationship with his girlfriend, Alice.
How do the sources describe their relationship?
In really stark terms, they talk about cycles of what they call knockdown, drag-out scream fests.
Wow.
And these fights were only ever resolved and balanced by sex that became consistently more intense and more frequent after Ursula's death.
So it's a messy, volatile.
And profoundly unsustainable way of managing this deep personal pain. He's just lashing out.
And this leads us to a truly dark psychological detail that kind of defines Benicio's internal state.
It's about his mother's death.
Right. When his mother died, he allowed the doctors and his family to believe that he was visiting the young driver of the car to assure her she was forgiven.
A noble act on the surface.
But the source material makes it crystal clear that Benicio's real secret motivation was far more self-focused. He wanted to know.
He wanted to know if his mother had seen it coming.
That level of hidden, internalized anxiety, that need to grasp for some kind of control over the moment of her death, it really sets the stage for how he's going to react to his father's impending doom.
Absolutely. So as Benicio is grappling with all of that trauma, the scene shifts back to Howard's captivity.
Where is he being held?
It's a grim, makeshift room, just cinder blocks. There's a single square window that cruelly offers a glimpse of the modern skyline.
And you can see the towers of the Shangri-La.
A constant, brutal reminder of the world he was just a part of. The kidnappers are operating in this state of high tension, just trying to secure the sale before they get caught.
And it's here that the brutality escalates beyond typical ransom violence. It connects back to Ignacio's roots.
It does. Ignacio uses a curved razor blade, the same type of spur that's used on fighting cocks.
Oh, no.
And he uses it to slice off Howard's ear. He forces a dishcloth into his mouth to muffle the screaming.
It's a shocking, localized act of violence. This is the grisly, final proof of life for the Abu Sayyaf buyers.
A truly horrific act, and during this traumatic event, we get this heartbreaking detail that just underscores their amateur incompetence.
The phone.
Howard's phone rings incessantly. It's Benicio calling again and again, frantic for his father.
And the kidnappers, they're just operating on panic instinct.
They're too afraid, maybe too stupid to answer. They know that answering the phone will compromise their flimsy plot.
So what do?
They decide the easiest way to deal with the complication is total annihilation. They smash the phone right there on the floor beside the cinder blocks where Howard is lying.
Extinguishing his last, best chance at a lifeline.
That one moment just encapsulates the raw, unthinking violence that's driving them. It's pure desperation and the ultimate denial of hope to their captive.
Okay, so now let's pivot to the official response, the forces that are being arrayed against these kidnappers.
But as we transition, we discover that the line between hero and villain in Manila is, well, it's extremely thin.
We're moving to Task Force Capao, led by a truly extraordinary figure, Renato Ocampo.
Renato is a sophisticated political operator, a master of optics. His primary overt job is managing the Senate campaign of a celebrity actor, Charlie Fuentes.
And this overlap is absolutely critical. Charlie is famous for starring in the massively popular Ocampo Justice films.
So Charlie Fuentes is literally running on the persona that Renato created and controls. He's winning simply because, as the sources say, the voters voted for a character they saw in the movies.
Renato, therefore, doesn't just manage a political campaign. He controls the entire narrative of justice in Manila.
Both on the screen, through his cinematic surrogate,
And on the streets, through his elite unit, Task Force Capao.
which is officially charged with solving high-stakes cases like this kidnapping. It acts as the sharp end of his political machine.
But Renato's political and tactical power is buttressed by an asset that operates completely outside the realm of politics or even traditional military protocol.
And that asset is Efrem Khalid Bakar.
Efrem is an army sniper, ostensibly, but Renato recruits and describes him as something else. He calls him a bruja.
A powerful, perhaps cursed individual capable of truly unnatural feats. This is the point where the sources introduce a genuinely supernatural element into state operations.
So we have to explore what this bruja gift actually entails. What can he do?
Efrem's power is an extreme form of clairvoyant vision. When he focuses, his eyes are described as turning a shimmering, intense black, and this allows him to project his sight across impossible distances.
He can track storms days away.
He can identify the tiniest movements below him, like ants moving in fruit plantations, and he can detail the interiors of distant, obscured structures.
It's more than just surveillance, then.
Oh, it's much more. It's the ability to see the world stripped bare of its physical barriers. And Renato immediately understands that this asset represents a level of intelligence, a strategic advantage that is politically priceless.
And Efrem proves this ability in a highly personal, verifiable way for Renato. It's what cements his value.
Right. Renato tasks him with describing his own wife, Lorna Ocampo,
And she's miles away.
miles away at a high society brunch in the Shangri-La, the same building Howard could see from his prison.
And Efrem describes her.
He relays specific, detailed, and utterly accurate information. Lorna's hair is styled in a high beehive. She is wearing a string of black pearls. He describes the precise color and stitching of her blouse.
And then the crucial detail.
He reads the engraved letters on her wedding band from miles away. That level of verifiable, intimate detail establishes Efrem not just as a talented sniper, but as an oracle of inconvenient, absolute truth. He can see things Renato desperately wishes to keep hidden.
This inherent conflict seems built into Efrem's history. His power, or maybe it's a curse, his deadluck, it stems from this profound trauma.
We learn he was an orphan. He was found as an infant under burlap in an unpainted Baja boat, what's called a dead boat.
He was raised by an adoptive family, but tragedy followed him.
They were later killed when a bomb, set by rebels, exploded on the ferry they were taking.
And the sources explicitly identify the man who set the bomb.
Yes. Efrem's first handler and mentor, a man known only as the Holy Man, the same man Ignacio is trying to sell Howard to.
So Efrem's life is just defined by these cycles of love, loss, and betrayal at the highest levels.
Absolutely. He joined the army seeking vengeance, believing the military might have executed his original family. Now, under Renato, he's operating under the immense weight of this deadlock, serving a military and political structure that embodies the exact corruption he despises.
He's a man who sees everything clearly, but is forced to serve the deceitful.
And Renato, as the master manipulator, instantly leverages this unique sight. Efrem's surveillance is used not just for high-level security, but for pure political intelligence.
Like what?
Well, we see Efrem detailing the domestic lives of shabu dealers before a raid. He sees the affection they show their well-cared-for cat, the attention they pay to their little gardens, the sugary drinks they consume.
And Renato uses this.
He uses Efrem's sight to expose hypocrisy, which in turn strengthens his own public image as a crusader for justice.
But the violence inherent in their missions, that must take a moral toll on Efrem.
It does. We see his internal conflict surface during a raid on a chubby pirate who had a briefcase containing 20 million pesos.
And Efrem questions the mission.
He internally questions if their brutal mission, sanctioned by the state, aligns with sticking up for the unstuck up for. He's questioning the very justification of their violence.
What does Renato say to that?
Renato attempts to justify their actions using this philosophy of necessary pragmatism. He argues that stone-cold killers can't be trusted because they lack a moral compass.
But a man like Efrem,
A man like Efrem, who considers the rules and is plagued by doubt, is paradoxically a more reliable instrument of violence because he has a conscience to manipulate.
that is deeply cynical.
It underscores the fact that Task Force Capau is essentially an officially sanctioned criminal enterprise run by a man who is brilliant at manipulating both justice and the public eye.
So we've established how Renato Ocampo controls justice from the streets through his special forces and his celebrity actor Charlie Fuentes.
But he also controls the narrative in the private world of the diplomatic community.
Let's shift now to the U.S. Embassy and the internal pressure cooker surrounding Monique Thomas. She's the acting chief of American Citizen Services.
And Monique is under immense stress. Her office, ACS, is critically understaffed. Her colleague, Chuck, was temporarily sent to Kabul.
And this not only burdens her workload, but it also forced the cancellation of her own much-anticipated mandatory 5-week leave back in D.C.
So she's trapped in Manila, just like Howard was supposed to be leaving. She's resentful and completely overwhelmed.
And her domestic life mirrors the professional chaos. Her husband, Joseph.
Joseph is suffering from what the sources cheekily call adjunctivitis, the informal, highly stressful condition that stems from his failure to secure tenure at Georgetown.
He's a miserable, trailing spouse in Manila.
Openly expressing contempt for the city, the heat, the traffic, even the food. He specifically calls out spaghetti with sugar and hot dogs.
The domestic strain is then amplified by their adopted children, Sean and Layla.
Who are described as brown and are facing serious racial caricature and slights from their richer private school peers.
And Joseph, in his passive-aggressive misery, is conspicuously vague about how severe these incidents are.
Which Monique finds deeply frustrating. The atmosphere at home is just this constant, simmering resentment. Her life feels restrictive and suffocating.
It is against this backdrop of domestic misery, professional stress, and this feeling of being utterly trapped
that Monique initiates her affair with Renato Ocampo.
This affair is her radical escape. It gives her a terrifying sense of exhilaration, a balancing force against the relentless, dreary requirement of playing house with Joseph.
The source notes are very clear. She was overwhelmed and terrified of the joy creeping over her.
And what's fascinating is how the affair links back to the supernatural elements of this deep dive.
It does. Monique has always suspected she possesses an almost mystical connection to geological or seismic events.
She believes she physically felt Mount Pinatubo's massive 1991 eruption.
Felt it in her chest, like a restrictive string tied around her lungs.
And Renato, he seizes on this perceived intensity.
He repeatedly calls her bruja when minor tremors occur while they are together. He's acknowledging and perhaps even romanticizing her perceived power over the earth.
But this relationship isn't just sexual.
No, it's an emotional and even mythological acknowledgement of this terrifying raw power she believes she possesses.
And then the crises compound rapidly once the news of Howard Bridgewater's kidnapping breaks.
Monique is officially tasked with the international incident. She's the first point of contact. She's the one who has to track down Benicio at the Shangri-La and deliver the devastating news.
And as her professional life collapses, so does her personal one.
Right. During one of her clandestine nights with Renato, an earthquake strikes, a tremor that Monique will later believe her own emotional state caused.
The apartment is physically wrecked. Furniture is tipped over, laundry suds everywhere.
And then her children's pets escape. Layla's lovebird is gone, and Sean's fierce, spotted gecko is nowhere to be seen, leaving a trail of feed crickets hopping across the carpet.
A total mess. But while cleaning up, Monique makes a far worse discovery.
She finds Sean's new phone, new clothes that he'd been embarrassed to wear after she chose his old ones, and critically, a baggie with a pipe and meth.
And this discovery triggers an intense protective maternal fury.
Her diplomat composure just shatters completely. She traces the phone to the teenage girl who is the supplier.
And she confronts her.
Yes, and the girl quickly escalates the situation by calling Monique a cunt and a bitch.
Monique's protective rage is immediate and total. It culminates in her throwing the baggies of drugs back over the supplier's wall when the girl's father threatens to call the police on her.
It is an extraordinary display of a Foreign Service officer utterly losing control in the midst of a mounting international crisis.
But the climax of her breakdown, it centers on the missing pet.
The gecko. Monique finally finds Sean's fierce, spotted gecko atoke hiding in his backpack.
We should pause here to understand the tokay. It's known for being aggressive, for its loud bark, and for having an extremely powerful, relentless bite.
This is not a gentle creature.
And when she reaches for it,
The gecko bites her fingers, hard. It clings viciously to her middle and index fingers at the second knuckle. The pain is immediate and intense.
in her panic, driven by the preceding hours of crisis, guilt, and fury,
She hops over to the wall and slams her hand against it repeatedly to kill the animal. She finally breaks its grip and shakes the lifeless body to the floor.
blood is dripping onto the carpet. It's a visceral mess.
And she is completely overwhelmed by the emotional force of her actions, her infidelity, the fear for her son. This act of violence is the breaking point.
She becomes completely convinced that her intense emotional state, her bruja fury, is causing a geological catastrophe.
In her panic and her intense guilt, she believes she is responsible for triggering a volcanic eruption.
All the forces we've discussed, the kidnapper's desperate play, the task force's compromised ambition, and Monique's psychological meltdown, they all converge on Corregidor Island in a spectacular violent climax.
Right. So Ignacio and Little Boy, they've secured passage, and they're moving the critically injured Howard, who is now rolled haphazardly in a coarse rice sack, to a boat near Corregidor.
Their goal is to complete the transaction with the Abu Sayyaf.
Led by the holy man, who, you have to remember, is Efrem's former mentor and the man responsible for the death of Efrem's adoptive family.
The ultimate betrayal and vengeance are now set to collide.
Exactly. And just as the exchange is beginning on the beach, the tremor strikes.
The same geological movement that Monique, miles away, believes her fury caused.
Chaos is instantaneous. The police and task force Kapow officers, who had been patiently staging an ambush, are thrown flat on their backs as the ground violently trembles.
Which gives the bandits the crucial advantage they need to return fire.
The resulting firefight is messy and chaotic. Ignacio's boat catches fire.
And in a moment of true, dark, poetic justice,
Keylog, the blind gamecock, whose financial failure initiated this entire geopolitical and criminal nightmare, burns alive on the boat as Ignacio and Little Boy swim desperately for the bamboo outriggers and safety.
the source of the madness is consumed by the conflagration it wrought.
Perfectly put. In the confusion of the shootout, Howard, severely injured but alive, escapes the rice sack. He runs, staggering into the falling ash.
Ash that is the tangible result of the eruption that Monique, in her delirium, thought she caused.
He is eventually recovered, but he's missing an ear, severely beaten and critically wounded.
And the task force, the supposed instrument of justice, suffers a devastating internal collapse.
Renato is injured but survives. Efrem, observing the violent fight from a granite outcropping, sees the true devastation.
What does he see?
He witnesses the brutal fight involving his teammates. The sources describe the moment when his teammate Elvis transforms, becoming a black dog, only to be skewered through the neck by Efrem's own rifle fire.
And he also witnesses another teammate, Racha, being riddled with bullets.
He has to pile stones on him just to stop him from crawling away. The exact circumstances of who was shooting whom are blurred in the chaos, but the integrity of the team is just destroyed.
And it is Renato's actions in the immediate aftermath that confirmed his complete moral decay.
He goes to the hospital, he visits Racha, who is severely wounded but still capable of communicating by writing notes.
And Racha even writes to Renato that he is in the clear because Howard won't wake up to testify.
Renato sees this as the perfect, if horrific, opportunity to erase the morally compromised history of the mission.
Especially the discovery of the 20 million pesos in pirate money they confiscated and quietly kept.
Exactly. He confesses to Racha that he has decided to put this whole business behind me.
And then?
Then, in a cold, calculated move to protect his political narrative and his illegal gains, he produces a syringe, carefully pricks it into Racha's the fourth line, and pushes the fatal dose home.
Silencing his key witness. Eliminating the only man who could directly connect him to the recovered pirate money.
It's murder, and this act cements Renato's paranoia. Soon after, he finds something in his swimming pool.
A 50 BMG slug, Efrem's specialized caliber.
Lodged in the bottom of the pool, it's a chilling message.
It confirms his deepest fear. Efrem, the Bruja who can see everything, is alive.
And he tried to kill Renato too during the chaos on the beach, and he is absolutely still watching him.
Renato is left sleepless, moving through his house, constantly feeling Efrem's eyes skitter over his skin like ants.
The man who controlled the narrative of justice is now a prisoner of his own betrayal.
Meanwhile, the human cost to the Bridgewater family is finalized.
Howard dies 5 days after his rescue at Makati Medical. Benicio is left heartbroken, consumed by his complicated grief.
And now he's facing an immediate, repulsive final challenge.
Salida, Howard's paid mistress. She files a completely opportunistic paternity suit to claim a substantial part of Howard's estate.
Benicio's reaction is a final, dark act of love that relies on self-sabotage and compromise.
To honor his father's final wish cremation and scattering his ashes at Maynard Point, he has to secure the body quickly.
So he bribes a judge.
Bribes a judge with $20,000 for a clerical error, a guarantee that Salida's paternity petition will be misplaced and delayed until after the ashes are scattered and the estate is settled.
He uses corruption to achieve a moral goal,
proving that the system's toxicity has permeated even his attempt at filial piety.
And this final crisis ultimately detonates his relationship with Alice.
She finds a small, stray piece of the birth control packet he had deliberately sabotaged minutes before his father's kidnapping was even known.
She realizes everything.
She realizes that his actions, the deep emotional volatility, the hidden infidelity, the sabotage, and the intense guilt, all stemmed from his fear of commitment and his chaotic, destructive reaction to crisis.
And Alice leaves him.
She delivers the final devastating line, "I can't be all you've got."
Wow.
Yeah. This entire sprawling narrative, it highlights a dark truth. That knowledge, whether it's political leverage or personal insight, or even paranormal clairvoyance.
It's relentlessly wielded as a weapon.
And yet, it almost always leads to profound moral compromise. Renato Ocampo, the self-proclaimed hero, used the threat of the Abu Sayyaf, the leverage of a movie star's name, and Efrem's unique, terrifying gift of sight to gain political and personal power.
But in the end, that power was a trap. His moral decay, executing his own man, Racha, to cover up stolen money.
And his crippling, constant fear of the clairvoyant sniper he betrayed.
It was a self-inflicted wound. Renato was left isolated, terrified, and utterly powerless against the one man who can see the truth of his betrayal.
And we witnessed multiple, painful layers of justice or injustice played out across the city. The inherently corrupt political system survives through judicial bribery and the continued career of Charlie Fuentes.
The loving, if flawed, father, Howard, dies. The son, Benicio, is left heartbroken and self-sabotaging.
And the key instrument of justice, Renato, turns out to be the most morally compromised figure of all.
The only tangible, clean result of this entire geopolitical, personal, and criminal crisis, aside from the funerals and the broken relationships,
was a few inches of volcanic ash settled across the city.
The beautiful geological manifestation of the tremors and eruptions that Monique, in her frantic panic, believed she had personally caused. Natural phenomena and human tragedy inextricably linked.
And our sources leave us with one final, deeply unsettling historical warning. It's something conveyed to Efrem by the holy man.
What is it?
He tells him about the tragic fate of the Jobita commandos, 28 Moro soldiers who were betrayed and brutally murdered by the very officers they served. A historical precedent for betrayal from within.
So, considering Efrem's history, his deadluck curse, his power to see the absolute truth of the corruption in the Army and Task Force Capao, and his ultimate betrayal by Renato, who tried to have him killed.
What does it truly mean for society when the only person capable of seeing everything clearly is also the most deeply wronged?
And most capable of immense justified vengeance.
Is the price of true, unclouded knowledge always isolation and the inevitable threat of violent retaliation? That is a question we leave for you to consider as you process this deep dive.